Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Thursday, August the 14th, which makes this the news for Wednesday, August the 13th, 2025, day 1267 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital currently under siege. How do you do, everybody? How's everybody doing? Hey, Bjorn. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Roy Daniels. Tom Baker. He's one of my favorite Doctor Who's. Akron, 67. How you doing? Alice, good evening. Cake and Banjo. One of the most fun handles on the tickety-tock. Hey, Blue. Hey, Arna. Arn built himself a new barbecue shed. I've seen pictures. I'll tell you something. It's gorgeous. Hey, Tom. Mel, good evening. Carl. Hey, Mike now. Hey, so you guys are in here early, right? So I'm going to give you a little bonus craziness just for being on time. Hey, Dave. So I had the most outrageous thought today. It's totally ridiculous. It's not going to happen. But let's all dream together for just a moment, shall we? You know, Putin is leaving the country. Putin is leaving the country at a very bad time. Right? Where the people in the know just how bad he's made it for them, for all of them. And you know, a lot of times, sure, he's leaving Russia to go to America, right, Steve? He's meeting with Trump in Alaska on Friday, supposedly. Supposedly that's the plan. Now, if he does, hey, Steve-O, if he does, wouldn't it be something if there was a palace coup at the Kremlin? Why not? It's a perfect opportunity. Putin's out of the country. Right? Right, Anthony? Now, it's not going to happen, right? Putin's got an iron grip on the country. He's probably not even going to go himself. He's probably going to send a body double so that exactly this thing cannot happen. But I was kind of dreaming today, right? I was kind of dreaming today. Wouldn't it be great? Because you know what's coming. No, we don't. That's exactly the point. History has this funny way of things coming out of nowhere that nobody could ever have expected, right? What they call black swan events. A 1 in a million chance that you would never... When the Spanish Armada was shipwrecked in 1588, right, the time of the ascension of the British Armada. Before that, the Spanish ruled the high seas. Then in 1588, the British, during the blockade of Dublin Harbor, wrecked the Spanish Armada and became the preeminent force on the ocean. Only they didn't defeat them. The Armada was wrecked by a storm. Just a stupid thing that happened at exactly the wrong time, and that allowed the British to then smash what was left after the storm was done with them. So something is coming. It can't not be that way. It can't not be that way. Because right now, everything is so fragile inside of Russia. It really is. And we will talk about just how fragile some of this stuff is coming up here. Also, I just want to highlight for everybody, some of you, I am not from Russia. No, I'm an American. Now, some of you may be interested in coming around on Friday. Because Friday is going to be not a very special live, but it's going to be a theme. I want to discuss in some detail the erosion of Russian influence in Central Asia, particularly the Central and Southern Caucasus. I think that there's a lot happening there that's flying under the radar of most of the modern press. And so I want to have a kind of a deep dive into that. Okay, so now a couple of things. Oh gosh, I don't have it. I didn't write it down. Can you imagine? Every single night, what do? We start with last night's missile and drone attacks, right? And somehow, tonight, I failed to write it down. Does anybody have my Twitter handy? It's on there. Let's see, I got it right here. So last night, it was a quiet night here in Kyiv. It was a deadly attack, don't get me wrong. It was a deadly attack last night. However, it wasn't one of the big scaled attacks that we've been seeing. And I think that that's because of what's coming up on Friday. Trump has made it clear that he's not happy with these big strikes on Kyiv and other civilian population centers. And I think that Putin doesn't want to do anything to irritate Trump. So for the time being, I don't think we're going to see any scaled attacks on civilians in Ukraine. So last night, for example, we saw just 49 drones come in. 32 of them were taken out with active countermeasures or were shot down. That's a 65% interception rate. There were also 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles, both of which were intercepted. 100% interception rate on the Iskander-Ms. Incredible. That's good shooting, boys. That's real good shooting. Now, Friday is the big news, right? The Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska. And just to be clear, right, and get this out of the way and stop people from suggesting that this is a thing, the United States is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. We do not participate in the International Criminal Court. Therefore, there is no reason for the United States government to arrest Vladimir Putin when he is on our sovereign soil, not under the ICC warrant. However, there is U.S. law that would allow for his arrest if the president were anybody but Donald Trump, who has been installed by Vladimir Putin. Right? That's, I think, the reality of the situation. Now, it is true that the United States of America is rolling out the red carpet and getting ready to pay homage to, I don't know any other way to say it, this genocidal lunatic war criminal who should be in the dock in The Hague. But apparently that's what we're doing these days. We're feting dictators. Catherine Philp, who is the London Times World Affairs editor, wrote today that the notion this is a listening exercise is alarming everyone in Europe. Everyone is afraid that Trump will leave the meeting with a head full of Russian talking points. And she couldn't be more right. Now, what does this mean, a listening exercise? Well, the entire meeting is based on the utter incompetence of Steve Witkoff. He mistranslated or misread a translation of what the Russians were offering. It appeared, in his mind, that the Russians were offering real concessions. They aren't. They are demanding the entire capitulation and surrender of Ukraine. It's just that simple. And they have not moved on that point. And so the Trump administration has been forced to dial back the expectations for this meeting. And now they're calling it a listening session, as if there were 2 sides to this, as if somehow The aggressor state that poured 250,000 troops over the border to create the largest land war in Europe since World War II, in an effort to change national boundaries through military force, to erase from history an entire people, culture, and language, as if that was the guy we should be listening to, as if he had something legitimate to say. It's a complete waste of time. It's complete bullshit, but it's also dangerous bullshit. It's dangerous because, as Philp points out, the leader of the free world, so-called, is going to leave this meeting with a head full of Russian propaganda, thinking that somehow it's reflective of a reality that anybody lives in, besides the delusional dictator in Moscow. We are being told that there are 4 possible outcomes or 4 possible American plans that could come out of this meeting. 1, just a freeze of the front line, where it currently is. A freeze of the front line, and Putin gets handed the rest of the Donbass, 20,000 square kilometers that no Russian soldier has set foot in, abandoned, with the Ukrainians in there, to the Russian horde. Worse yet, a freeze of the front line, plus the U.S. will push for the Ukrainians to withdraw from all 5 territories, including those territories that the Russians have not set foot in, meaning the 19,000 square kilometers in the Donbass with no Russians in there. Roughly the same amount of land in Zaporizhia and Kherson, including Kherson City and Zaporizhia City, filled with Ukrainians that do not want to live under the yoke of Russian oppression, abandoned. And none of this is going to happen, right? There is also this ridiculous notion that somehow the Russians will give up Kherson and the Ukrainians will get Kherson back, but the Russians get to keep Crimea, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Donetsk, which is never going to happen. First of all, Putin's never going to give up Kherson. Second, the Ukrainians are never going to agree to any of this. So it is a complete waste of time. And, of course, any one of these plans rewards the aggressor. Now, Steve Rosenberg, who is the BBC Russian editor, and who on his flight to Alaska today was reading some of the Russian papers, and I have a couple quotes here. This is from Moscowy Komsomolets. Quote, land liberated by Russia and fixed in our constitution as part of Russia is not up for discussion. Russia is ready to achieve its goals militarily and is demonstrating that clearly on the battlefield. Alaska is an example of the movable nature of borders. The fact that they're meeting in Alaska, Moscowy Komsomolets points out Alaska, historically, which was Russian, is a great example of the movable nature of borders. Izvestia writes, Brussels could be an obstacle, already blaming or setting up the blame should this not result in a peace deal, which it will not, or if the meeting should be canceled beforehand, which it still could be. They are already setting up to blame the EU and Ukraine as the problem, as the obstacles to peace. That's the narrative Putin wants to get out. Putin sees this meeting, this summit, as the battlefield. He sees the weapon as reasonable conversation between peers, meant to flatter and stroke Trump's ego. And he sees victory in the press, a pro-Russian narrative blasted out of the White House and out of the mouth of his puppet, Trump. So, I want to read, I have here the list of what came out. So today, our boy Zelensky is in Berlin with Friedrich Merz. The German chancellor and the Ukrainian president had a telephone call with Trump today, along with calls to other European leaders as well. Now, out of these talks, the key points that came, and that Ukraine and European leaders are trying to impress on Trump, which, above all, it appears that what they're trying to impress on Trump is not to trust Putin. It is unbelievable to me that of the two least trustworthy people on earth, we have to convince one of them not to trust the other. So, statement by Zelensky and Merz after talks with Trump. Point one, Ukraine is ready for negotiations on territorial issues, but only based on the current contact line and after a ceasefire is in place. Ukraine and its partners have agreed to 5 joint principles, including Ukraine's right to join NATO. So an exemption from NATO is off the table. The defense forces will not withdraw from Donbass in exchange for a ceasefire. Fucking forget it. The Ukrainians have no reason to withdraw from territory that no Russian soldier has ever set foot on. It's ridiculous. Legal recognition of territories occupied by Russia is not on the table. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Key questions regarding Ukraine's territories will be decided at the leaders' level. So that means direct talks between Zelensky and Putin, which Trump hinted at today could happen within the week. It's not going to. We don't even know if Friday is going to happen. I think the odds are 60-40 that it will not. 60-40 that it will not. Anybody want to put money on it? Right? I'll give you 1.5 to 1 odds. But real money only, American money. Ukraine must receive security guarantees. Trump expressed support and readiness to take part. Bullshit. He's pointedly said before that he will not make security guarantees to Ukraine. So that, I think, is sheer bullshit. Trump proposed that Zelensky discuss joint steps after the summit with Putin, and in fact, suggested that there could be trilateral talks within the next 10 days following the meeting. So there we have it. That's the latest and the greatest on the upcoming Trump summit. Again, if you are in Alaska or if you know anybody in Alaska, Stand Up Ukraine is hosting a protest tomorrow at the, ER, Edmonton Richardson Air Base or something like that. I forget, I didn't write it down. But it's outside of Anchorage, apparently. Okay, now, tonight I want to discuss, or kind of give an overview, because, you know, over the last 12 days, we've seen strikes on 4 Russian oil refineries. And this is a big deal. And so I want to take a look at just what's been happening over the last 12 days and what the impact of these strikes has been. So, beginning on August 2nd, after a months-long moratorium on strikes against oil refineries and oil infrastructure, we saw 2 refineries hit, Samara and Ryazan. The Samara oil refinery refines 8.8 million tons of crude oil a year. That's 3.1% of all of Russia's refining capacity. Ryazan is a much bigger place. They process 17.1 million tons of crude oil a year. That's 6%, 6.1% of all of Russia's refining capacity. After the strike, Samara was shut down completely. Ryazan is at half, roughly plus or minus half capacity, with 2 out of 3 crude oil units shut down. Then we saw on August 7th, the Afipsky plant in oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai hit 6.2 million tons a year, or 2.2% of all refining capacity. The gas processing unit was hit, and so processing there has been stopped while that is repaired. Completely offline now. Then on August 10th, Saratov, the Rosneft refinery in Saratov, 7 million tons of crude oil a year, 2.5%. We're waiting on a damage assessment there. It is a key supplier of oil to the Volga River area and the southern regions. Now, dig it. That's a combined, these 4 oil refineries represent combined nearly 40 million metric tons a year, or 14% of Russia's refining capacity. 8.3% of Russia's refining capacity is offline from these strikes alone. The effects of this are not to be underestimated. You're talking about almost 10% of daily production. One of the things that happened almost immediately was the Russians were forced to stop exporting refined oil products. And we saw another refined oil products export ban. That's a big deal. That means less tax revenue. That means less income for the country. That's a big deal. At $100 a barrel and 1 million barrels a day, that's a big deal. The Kremlin, as they are facing more and more fuel constraints, is forced increasingly to choose between supplying the military, supplying the manufacturing base, or supplying the Russian consumer. This is not a choice anyone wants to make. Your manufacturing base needs the fuel to continue manufacturing war material so that your war can proceed. Your military needs its diesel so that its war machines can run. The Russian people need their gas to get to work and to harvest the crops. Harvest season is coming. You do not want to be in a position where you have to choose between shutting down your military machine and feeding the people. This is going to be a problem. This all comes too on the heels of the strike against the Volgograd pipeline. That's a natural gas pipeline that supplies natural gas to much of Russia's military industrial complex in the area, including 4 large military manufacturing centers. The Kremlin is currently running a deficit, and that deficit ballooned by $13 billion in July to $61.1 billion. The forecast for the year, the deficit could end between 75 and 79 billion, twice what was budgeted. Oil and gas revenues are down by 18.5%. GDP growth forecasts for Russia, according to the IMF, is down to 0.9%, less than 1%. Although estimates vary on that, other analysts suggest 0.5 to 1% GDP growth next year for Russia. This is a double whammy of energy constraints an economic downturn that threaten not merely the stability of the Russian economy, but the stability of the Russian regime and the continuation of its war efforts in Ukraine. A single black swan event, a blight of crops, a border issue that opens up another front in the war, say with Azerbaijan, or a revolution in Georgia, or all of those things happening in short time of each other, could destabilize not merely the Russian economy, but the Russian power structure itself. Something as simple as a stroke, for Putin to suffer a stroke, could be the black swan event that destabilizes the Kremlin and plunges the country into an orgy of violence, the likes of which we have not seen since the fall of the Soviet Union. So, it's very revealing to me of Ukraine's capabilities and strategies that they've demonstrated the ability to build drones that will hit these targets, that will penetrate Russian air defense. And these deep strikes inside of Russia, so many people, so many Russian trolls want to make the entire war about where the front line is. And that as long as Russia's making gains on the front line, they are winning. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. You can't fight a war without food and bullets. Ukraine is taking away Russia's ability to get food and bullets to its people on the front line. That's going to be a problem. It's already a problem. Okay, now turning to the front line. Up in Sumy, the Ukrainian Armed Forces 225th Separate Assault Unit has liberated 2 towns and driven the invaders back into Russia. Good shit there. Northeast of Pokrovsk. It turns out, right, remember yesterday we were talking about how it's not a breakthrough? And in fact, it turns out that what we're seeing on the maps is very inaccurate. What's really happened there is that 3, maybe 4 infiltration groups of between 20 and 30 people, 3 or 4, 20 or 30, it's nothing. It's literally nothing. It's maybe 80 guys that snuck behind the lines. 80 to 120, right? Like that's it. One of these infiltration groups has already been tracked down and eliminated or taken prisoner. And currently the other infiltration groups are being hunted by forces that have been brought into the area. They did manage to penetrate 12 or 16 kilometers behind the lines, but are facing deep operational challenges. Yeah, I would think so. Stretched supply lines, high losses, exposed flanks, heavily contested, difficult to hold, facing mounting counteroffensives by the Ukrainians. Every one of these guys is dead already. That's the outcome of the so-called breakthrough northeast of Pokrovsk. What this is really an effort by the Russians for propaganda ahead of Friday, for Putin to be able to walk into the meeting saying confidently, we are taking ground. It's bullshit. Apparently, it's absolute bullshit. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces has said that it has dispatched units to track them down, and the situation is contained. Now, we'll see. Maybe the Ukrainians are full of shit. Maybe we'll wake up tomorrow and there'll be 30,000 Russian troops in Pokrovsk. I doubt it. I doubt it. This week, there were 2 unexplained fires at Russian industrial sites. Now, I don't want to say that these were Ukrainian hits. We don't have any evidence that there was drone activity in the area for either of these. We also have no claims from partisan groups taking credit for these attacks or for these industrial incidents, let's call them. But it is worth pointing out that these things happened. We don't know why they happened. Investigations are underway. 2 unexplained fires this week. A paint and coatings plant in Yaroslavl. They make paint and armor protective coatings for armored vehicles of the Russian Federation forces. So this is a military contractor. They make protective coatings for tanks and paint for those kinds of vehicles. The fire spread over 3,000 square meters, and the roof of the factory collapsed. Meanwhile, in Bashkortostan, the soda plant, the Bashkir Soda Company, blew up. There was an explosion in an air-gas mixture part of the plant. 22 people have been hospitalized with chlorine gas poisoning and extensive burns. 36 people injured in total. This place is the largest soda ash, baking soda, and baking soda production plant in Russia. It is linked to a close oligarch, a friend of Putin's, who was heavily involved in Kerch Bridge construction. So you guys know the Kerch Bridge is a concrete structure. One of the principal ingredients in concrete is cement. One of the principal ingredients in cement is limestone. Well, this guy owns an entire mountain of limestone, and that's what gets processed at this baking soda plant, and apparently was processed to make the cement for the Kerch Bridge. So this guy is a friend of Putin's. There were reports that there were 2 explosions at the plant within 24 hours of each other, but I was unable to substantiate the second explosion. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but there may have been 2 explosions at the plant. Okay. The Ukrainian firm Wild Hornets, who makes drones, released video of its new Sting interceptor drone. This thing flies it's clocked at 195 miles an hour, or 313 kilometers per hour. Shaheds, the regular standard Shaheds, fly at 115 miles per hour. So this thing can overtake a Shahed in the air handily. It's got the speed of a bullet train, and it only costs $2,500 for this FPV drone interceptor. In Unache, in Bryansk, the oil pumping station of the Druzhba pipeline was struck by Ukrainian drones, and a large fire on the territory of the pipeline is currently burning. Now, that's a big deal. That's Russia's oil exports to Belarus, where Belarus refines that oil for its own gasoline, diesel products. That pipeline being on fire is going to be a problem for the Belarusians. Plus, of course, it's transit fees, taxes, and revenue that the government will not enjoy. An oil storage facility in Tatarstan was hit today and is on fire. Now, I started this session by daydreaming that while Putin is in Alaska, maybe we could have a palace coup at the Kremlin. Now, the reason I got this ridiculous idea into my head is because of Jason J. Smart. If you don't know Jason J. Smart, he works for the Kyiv Post here in town, and he just started a YouTube channel. I encourage you all to take a listen to it and to take a look at it and to subscribe to it. Help the guy build the channel. Real insightful fella, PhD, and a true Kremlinologist, right? He's studied Russia, did his PhD and master's on Russia and the Kremlin. He's a Kremlinologist. His best credential and best testament of his character, in my opinion, is the fact that he has been blacklisted from Russia for life. I mean, if you want to know who you are, look at who your enemies are. It's the best character reference I think you could get here in this first quarter of the 21st century. Right, Roy? The guy's great. So he has a video out today about the FSB purge that's coming. There is a lot of talk around the Kremlin of a coup. Now, you and I, as Americans and Westerners, we hear talk of a coup. We think there's a coup coming. Well, not according to Jason, right? Jason says talk of a coup is code for we are going to flush out the traitors. There is a purge coming. Now, we've talked on this channel about how the FSB just got themselves unlimited pretrial detention centers, read torture chambers, unaccountable to any court. They are now positioned to do mass arrests, mass detentions, and to silence dissent of every kind. Well, Jason seems to think that what's really coming is a purge of the military, a purge of the oligarchs, and the state nationalization of the assets of these folks. So that put me in mind of a palace coup, maybe while Putin's out of town. Jason didn't suggest that in any way. He doesn't seem to think that that's what's going on. He rather thinks that the FSB, under the direction of its mafia don, Vladimir Putin, is consolidating power and cash. Finally, Germany has allocated $500 million for the purchase of U.S. weapons to Ukraine as part of the NATO initiative. Okay. Big thanks to our sponsor tonight, the beautiful and talented Eli, longtime friend of the channel. Thanks so much, Eli. Appreciate you. Last night was Grandma Knows. Monday was our friend Avi. And I got no sponsors for Thursday and Friday. So if anybody would like to step up and sponsor a live Thursday and Friday, those dates are available. So everybody thank Eli. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peters Peeps group. And of course, big thanks to the moderator team, best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Pete, Maddie, Feisty, Jay, and Travis. Thank you, guys. All right, so questions, comments, points of observation. Could not find your live last night. We were live last night, Scully. And you know, they're always posted on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube after, you can find last night's live. Yeah, Hero, you might be right. We'll see. I did not hear about a fire at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant today. I don't know anything about that. I didn't see that anywhere. What am I drinking? I'm drinking Ceylon. That's kind of a red tea. Out of the one coffee mug that came with this apartment, it's a Christmas coffee mug. What do I think would happen to Trump and company if Russia collapsed? If the Russian dark money that's flowing into the country supporting this traitorous son of a bitch were suddenly to evaporate? Do I think he and his movement and all of its people would suddenly find themselves in fucking jail, facing the justice of the American system? Yes, I do rather think they would. We wouldn't have Trump without Vladimir Putin. It's just that simple. Keep that coffee mug. It's not my coffee mug, Pip. What do I think is happening if there's not a ceasefire? The war will continue. That's all. Larry says it was a grass fire at Zaporizhia, which is very likely. Things have been dry this summer. Russia's facing drought conditions in 10 oblasts. The wheat harvest in Krasnodar Krai is expected to be down 60%. How many Russian drones last night? 49. 32 of them shot down, 65% interception rate. 2 missiles, too. Both of them shot out of the sky, 100% missile interception rate. I daydreamt that the Ukrainians snuck some SAMs near the airports of Alaska. I'm hoping for a rogue Canadian fighter pilot who goes totally rogue, enters the Arctic international airspace, and shoots the plane down when it's in international airspace over the Bering Sea, or the Bering Strait, for about, I think the guy will be in international airspace for 2 minutes and 32 seconds. That's all the time any international actor will have. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Now, dig it. I was very shocked by this. Can anybody guess how long it takes to fly from Moscow, Russia, in Europe, technically, to Anchorage, Alaska? Would anybody like to guess how long it takes? 30 minutes. Get the fuck out of here, Dino. 2.5 minutes. No. 7 hours, 48 hours, 15 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. Van Dutch. Pete, why are you saying such small numbers? Why are you guys saying? Because to me, it's the other side of the world, right? I mean, you can't get farther away on the planet from Ukraine than Alaska. But you know what? We live on a globe. And at the top of the globe, it's a much shorter distance, right? Like the time zones all get real skinny. It takes less than 10 hours. It takes less than 10 hours. It's like 9 hours and 38 minutes from Moscow to Anchorage. I was shocked by that. I mean, hell, it takes 21 hours to get from New York to Honolulu. But of course, you're much closer to the equator. Time zones are big and fat on the map, right? I was really surprised by that. No, NV Hunter, it doesn't have anything to do with Ukraine. So NV Hunters, or NVNTER. Oh, that's weird. I always thought that said, I always think of your name as Nevada Hunter, but that's not what that says at all. So NVNTER, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. So 97 drones in 2 days. Ukraine is making impact. No. Putin knows that big strikes against the cities irritate Trump. He does not want to irritate Trump before Friday. That's what's happening. Inventor. Yeah, that's a terrible name, pal. Nobody would get that out of that. It's just awful. Sorry. Right, Lars? Right, Lars? Think about how long it takes to get from Norway to Philippines. Holy shit. I couldn't believe it. But it totally makes sense when you think about it, right? Firefighter got it. See, Inventor, I'm wrong. I'm just dumb. Firefighter totally got it. Hey, Pugamone. Oh, Steve, definitely they're stockpiling for a big strike. That's a big fear here. People are saying that. That, wow, when it's over and Putin feels he can do it again with impunity, we're going to get slammed. Yeah. Maddie got it too. Everybody's making fun of me now. Good. In winter, Americans can walk into Russia, except we never do. There is something unexpected coming. I don't know what it is. I don't know when it's going to be here. But I keep watching the horizon for that black swan event. And that's one of the reasons on Friday I want to dedicate the conversation to the Caucasus and Central Asia. Because the event could very well emerge out of that cauldron of bubbling geopolitical shifting alliances that we're watching. I would expect it right after he meets with Trump or during. During is not impossible. He does do shit like that. I don't know that the Bering Strait is mined, Nightshade, is it? Wouldn't you use sea mines there? It sounds like you're talking about land mines. Yeah, Felice, that's what I'd like to see. Yeah, Pugga Mahone, did you just get here? Because we spent a considerable amount of time talking about it. In fact, I read the entire statement from Merz and Zelensky. No, Simon, we will never see U.S. troops in this war as long as Donald Trump is in the White House. That is not a thing. Maybe they would. I don't know. I never heard of that, Nightshade. I don't know anything about that. How is Alaska developing, Uncle Peter? Well, there's a big protest plan for tomorrow, and I feel confident that that is going to evolve into a protest for Friday as well. You got a lot of crazy people in Alaska, man. Well, I don't know, with a lot of weapons. A lot of weapons in Alaska. Truthful, I mean, it's not impossible. It's unlikely. It's highly unlikely. Big hunting in Alaska. Yes, there is. And fishing. Fishing is a big thing up there. A lot of fishing. All right, again, let me thank Eli, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group, and to the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Other questions, comments? Protesters are getting around TikTok by using music to spread the word. Cool. Trump has called the place they will meet Russia several times. Hunting with stingers. Geo Husar has an interesting post on how we lost the U.S. to Trump. Yeah, Roy, Geo Husar is great. I highly recommend everybody take a look at him. Need a moose to survive the winter. Arn, you got some moose in the freezer, don't you? I'd love some moose. I hope so, Pugga Mahone. I hope that that's exactly what's going to happen. That Alaska's going to be yellow and blue, and Putin is made to see it. No, the Crimea Bridge is open. To the best of my knowledge, only one lane is open. A moose loose in the hoose. Are you vegetarian, Little Red? Moose and Squirrel will challenge Boris and Natasha. No. Oh, do you feel bad about your chicken and your cow, too? Give me a break. Come on. How is Alaska... Prime, I don't know what you want me to say. The meeting is happening on Friday, supposedly. We think it's a load of bullshit. Nothing's going to come out of it. The White House is walking back any hope of progress, saying that it's a listening session, which is scary as shit that anybody is going to listen to what Vladimir Putin has to say, since you know how to tell when Putin is lying because his lips are fucking moving. Yeah, the first 20 minutes of this live, we talked about nothing but Alaska, pal. Antelope ribs. Any South Africans on here? I love a boerewors. Love me some springbok or gazelle. Oh, yeah, Van, you're SA, right? I forgot about that. I think of you as Florida. Dude, I got a pack of boerewors one time when I was in Pennsylvania, and I called my buddy Desmond up, and I say, I got these, and Des was from Pretoria, and he was in heaven. He hadn't had anything like it in probably 15 years in the United States. He was a happy motherfucker. There's a guy in Jersey who brings them in. Can Sarah Palin still see Russia from her house in Alaska? I don't know. Chef Deb did not enjoy moose meat. Thanks, firefighter. Thanks for tuning in, man. It's very gamey. Well, I've eaten alligator, never crocodile. It's very gamey. Here's the thing about gamey meat, right? There's two things. First of all, the animal must be field dressed properly and quickly after being shot. That's the very first thing. You've got to take care of the game in the field. Then the other thing, of course, is how are you preparing it? I mean, I've had bear that you would have sworn was beef. It's all, which is no good in my opinion. If I want beef, I'll eat beef. If I'm having bear, I want to know I'm eating bear. So, but the point is, you handle it right. You can make anything taste like chicken, especially alligator or rattlesnake. Kangaroo's okay. Again, it's about preparation. Yes, we're all savages. We are all quite, very much savages. All right, kids, I tell you what, it's getting late here. Please, again, join me Friday for a very special look at Russia's eroding influence in the Caucasus. Because when I think about black swan events, unexpected happenings that could suddenly set in motion a falling domino and a series of falling dominoes, the hotbed of the Caucasus is a place that such a thing could emerge from. So let's talk about that and Russia's failing influence there. Again, big thanks to Eli, longtime supporter of this channel, stalwart supporter of this channel, to whom I am deeply indebted. Thank you, Eli. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to Jay, Travis, Pete, Maddie, and Feisty, best moderators on the Tickety Talk. I don't care about good taste. I just want it to taste good. What was his name? The starfish, star-kissed shark or tuna. That's who that is. Starkiss doesn't care about good taste. They just want tuna that tastes good. Was it Sun-Kissed? Charlie. That's it. Charlie the tuna. Sorry, Charlie. Starkist wants tuna that... Starkist doesn't want tuna with good taste. Starkist wants tuna that tastes good. You know, I'll tell you, one of my favorite things in the world is a can of Starkist albacore in spring water, right? Love it. Can't get albacore in this country. I haven't had a decent tuna sandwich in 2.5 years. That's not entirely true. I had some leftover tuna steak, and I turned it into tuna salad. And that was pretty good. Actually, I had it as a tuna melt with some fries. That was actually very good. I did enjoy that. I think I mentioned my friend Becca is coming to Kyiv next month, and it has promised to bring me a jar of Miracle Whip. I'm so happy about that. Yeah, Dawn, I love a good tuna melt with fries, with big fat steak fries. I'm a big fan. Maybe a little tomato soup too. Chef Deb made stuffed peppers. Nice. Natural Catch. It is pole caught and is the best canned tuna I've ever eaten. No, I've never heard of that, Larry. I did a clove-studded pork roast today. That'll last me a couple days. I know I shouldn't, but now I want a pork sandwich. I might have to make myself a pork sandwich right now. All right, kids, it's 1 a.m. here. Alaska King salmon, nice. Padron peppers? No, Pete, I don't recognize that. You know me and food, Anthony. I do love the food. But seriously, Anthony, this pork roast I made today, not only was it clove studded, but I did a maple and Carolina Reaper pepper glaze on it. Pretty freaking good. Pretty freaking good. Felice, no, neither. All right, kids, make it a great day. And I will talk to everybody tomorrow.